Hello everyone, Helen here. How are you today? I hope you're okay. I'm fine and very happy to be here chatting to you again. And in today's podcast I've got, I'm going to have a little bit of a chat about the mousealong makealong that I first introduced a couple of episodes ago. And I've got a little story from one of the old books that I showed you not so long ago that I bought, and another new book. And I'm also going to finish off telling you about the trip that my mum and I went on to the English Lake District to Windermere that I told you in last week's podcast. So yeah, I think that's going to be today. So I am so excited that there's going to be more than two of you joining in with the mousealong makealong. That's really brilliant. So thank you if you've already told me that you're going to join in, and even if you've already told me that you've made something and shown me a photo. So you've got until the end of June 2024 to do that. But anyway, I decided that for my part in the mousealong makealong, that I would that I would sew a mouse. So using a pattern, and not just a little mouse, but a much bigger mouse than I've made before. And the reason that I am doing this one is that I've been inspired by a couple of podcasters, Lily from the Lily and the Bee podcast and Lindsay from So Sweet Samuel. And those lovely ladies are big fans of the cool crafting patterns by Sarah, can't remember her other name, I'll put it on the screen. And this designer is the one who's responsible for the lunar lapping rabbity hare animals that lots and lots and lots of people have made. But there's also lots of other animals that you can make. And when I was browsing the website and came across the mouse, I thought, right, that's the one for me. So I bought the pattern, and actually I bought it as a kit so that I got all the bits of fabric and other bits and bobs that you need for it. And that has now been all cut out. All the pieces are cut out and in this plastic folder here, because that's going in the camper van with me on our next trip. Because I'm just going to try and sew it all by hand. So, I am a little bit out of my comfort zone still when I'm using sewing patterns. So I'll have to see how I get on. Fingers crossed. I can always ask Lily or Lindsay for a bit of help. Anyway, but if you want to know all of the details about the make-along, then just take a look at episode 178 if you haven't seen it yet. And just to remind you, it's just all about creating a mouse in any kind of art or craft that you like. It can be as simple and basic as you like. So yeah, let's just let's see how many different mice we can create between us. And it will feel like a little community together. So I think that's all I want to say about the make-along for the moment. And next, right, so this is a book that I bought recently. I'll pick it up from here. This old book here, which is 100 years old, or it's over 100 years old. It's called the Fireside Lesson Book. And not so long ago, I showed you lots of the illustrations and all of the things that were inside here. And the very last section in this old book is called Schoolroom Lectures. So it is a book for children, by the way, in case you didn't see that. And I was just fascinated when I was looking through the Schoolroom Lectures section at the things that the author 100 years ago thought that children would be interested in. Some of them are quite obvious. I think today's that I've chosen children would be interested in, but some of the subjects they're very wide ranging anyway, and I hope that this is not the only story that I'm going to read to you today. So shortly I'm going to read you one of those stories. Put that there for a minute. But I have recently acquired another old book. This one is called Songs with Music from a Child's Garden of Verses. And it's a book where somebody called the Reverend Thomas Crawford, who I've never heard of before, has set some of Robert Louis Stevenson's poems to music. And the book has been illustrated by definitely a well-known illustrator, Margaret Tarrant. It's absolutely gorgeous. But one of the reasons that I was attracted to it was that A Child's Garden of Verses was one of my absolute favourite books as a child. And it's this one here, this actual edition that's illustrated by Hilda Boswell. This edition was originally published in the mid-1960s. I think the first one was 1963. I think this copy was, I was a little bit later. I didn't have a 1963 copy, probably more like 1974 or something like that. But I loved this book, and it probably was this book that where I began to really love poetry. And there are poems in here, lots of them here, which are my favourites. And so when I looked through this book, The Songs with Music, one of my favourite poems had been set to music, which is a poem called My Shadow. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me. I bet lots of you know that one as well. Now, when I look in a music book, when I look at the music, then without going to a piano or anything, I can just hear the music in my head. So I can flick through this book and really enjoy it. I can hear the music as well as read the words. But I know that not everybody can do that. And so I thought that rather than simply show you the page of music with my shadow on it, that I would actually sing you the song. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm playing the piano and singing the song to you while showing you the illustrations from the song that are in here, and also some of the illustrations for the poem in this book here. Well, apologies in advance for my amateurish attempts at singing, but hopefully you can just enjoy the fact that you can hear what that song was like that was written long ago. So I'm going to show you the story, read you the story, which is called Sixpence, and then sing you the song, and then I'll come back to chat again.
Sixpence by Harold Beatty. When someone gives you a sixpence, do you ever think what a wonderful life that little coin has lived? It once inhabited the sun before it came to earth. Then a volcano boiled it up and plunged it down in the depths of the earth. There it lay, changing its character for thousands of years. At last a miner with his pick dislodged the stone in which it lay, and after being boiled and smelted and treated to many strange experiences, this ore gave up its silver. The silver was poured into a mould and became an ingot. Then this ingot was placed in a ship and carried across the ocean to England. In England, the ingot was taken to the mint, and there a part of it was turned into a sixpence. And now you hold it in your hand, and your thought is, how shall I spend it? You want to exchange this wonderful traveller for a box of sweets, a ball, a humming top, or the children's magazine. You spend it. But what becomes of it? When you have eaten all your sweets and broken your humming top and lost your ball or given your children's magazine to some poor little cripple girl, the sixpence is still travelling about the world, never resting for very long in anybody's pocket, and always buying something. That is one of the strange things about a coin. A single sixpence, by the time it gets to middle age, has bought perhaps £1,000 worth of goods, and yet it is only sixpence all the while. Perhaps it buys a toy at 1 minute, then tobacco, then sugar, then a book, then bread, then flowers, then china, then ink, then a walking stick, then a paint box, and so on, till it has bought something of nearly everything there is to buy in the world, and at the end it is still only sixpence. And it has been held for at least a few moments by all sorts of men. Before your uncle gave it to you, it lived perhaps in the pocket of a duke, a costermonger, a doctor, a goldsmith, a chimney sweep, a miller, a duchess, and a judge. If only sixpences could speak, what a lot of strange stories they might tell about the people they have known. Sixpences are very democratic coins. A duke, who would think little of a penny, will take a cabman's sixpence. A friend of mine declares that there are kind sixpences and mean sixpences. "Here's a kind sixpence," he will exclaim. "See how happy and cheerful it looks. One smiles at it as one smiles at a kind and jovial face. I'll be bound it has spent its life doing good. And here's a mean one. How dull, how grey, how bitter it looks. I'll warrant it has been hoarded up by stingy people, and many a time been put into the church bag by folk who ought to have given half a crown. Bah! It makes me cross to look at it. I am sure coins get a look from the people who handle them. Now, if I see a poor person and put my hand into my pocket out of love and pity, I am certain to pull up a kind sixpence. But if someone asks me for a shilling, and I feel that I need not give more than sixpence, a mean sixpence is pretty sure to come from my pocket. However this may be, it is quite certain that there are sixpences doing a wonderful lot of kindness in the world, and sixpences sneaking about like whipped dogs, doing grudgingly only what they are obliged to do. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. He is very, very like me from the heels up to the head, and I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow, not at all like proper children, which is always very slow, for he sometimes shoots up taller like an Indian rubber ball, and he sometimes gets so little that there's none of him at all. He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play, and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close beside me, he's a coward you can see. I think shame to stick to nursie as that shadow sticks to me. One morning very early, before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. But my lazy little shadow, like an arrant sleepy head, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed.
Well, last week I promised that I would finish telling you about the little holiday that my mum and I had over in the English Lake District, We'd had a couple of days just revelling in the joy of Beatrix Potter, anything to do with Beatrix Potter. And we still had a day left of our holiday, and then the day after that we had to go home. And I think I did mention that actually on that Sunday, I decided not to do any photography or videoing at all, and that my mum and I would simply enjoy each other's company for the day without me jumping up all the time and videoing this, that and the next thing. But we did have a fantastic time. We decided to just make use of the Lakes bus service. So we got a bus from Windermere, where we were staying, up north to Keswick. And then we got another bus, which was actually a circular route. And it took us past Buttermere and through the Honister Pass. Oh, it was just gorgeous. And it returned us back to Keswick. And then we got the bus back to Windermere. So that was a really, really nice day. I mean, the weather wasn't brilliant, but it didn't matter. We were just seeing the fantastic scenery all around us. So that was lovely. And then on the following day, it was time to go home. And Phil, that's my husband, if you don't know, had very, very kindly offered to come and pick us up, because that Monday was a bank holiday Monday and public transport can be a little bit dodgy and we could have had a very lengthy journey home. So he said he'd come and pick us up. So on the Sunday, the day before we needed to be picked up, he'd come across to the Lake District in the camper van and he'd gone for a lovely walk and he'd stayed in the camper van overnight all by himself for the first time. He was okay. And then on the Monday morning, he came and picked my mum and I up from the bed and breakfast. And my mum had requested that we called in at a place called Patterdale on Ullswater on the way home. And that was for a very special reason. So about 20 years ago, which was about 5 years after my dad had died. He wasn't really all that old when he died. But about 20 years ago, my mum started getting to know a lovely man called Charles. And he had actually been a teenage sweetheart of my mum's. She really, really fancied him, but I don't think they ever really got together. But anyway, Charles reappeared and they started going out together, and then they fell completely in love and got engaged and had arranged a wedding. And very, very sadly, a few weeks before the wedding, Charles suddenly died. And well, you can just imagine how, I don't need to tell you how deeply sad we were. But Charles had quite a connection with the Lake District and Patterdale in particular. And so his ashes were scattered in a churchyard in the church in Patterdale. So every now and then, if ever my mum gets the chance, she likes to go and visit there. So it's not very often, but you know, if she's nearby, then that's where she wants to go. So we were very happy to oblige and drove in the camper van and parked by the church. And my mum was able to just wander over to the place where the ashes had been scattered and have a little chat with Charles and just remember the happy times that they did have together. And while I was there in the churchyard wandering around, and it was such a beautiful, peaceful place. And there I noticed that on one of the walls there was the most amazing variety of plant life. I just couldn't stop looking at it, and so I thought, right, I've just got to capture this on. I took lots of photos and a video, and so I've made a little video for you with a bit of piano accompaniment, so you can just see what an amazing wall this was. And then I'll pop back just to say goodbye. So wasn't it amazing? I didn't try counting how many different varieties of things were growing there, and let alone all of the different insects and things that were probably living underneath all of those leaves and things. But I was just completely mesmerised by the whole thing. So I hope you enjoyed that too. But I am going to leave you now until next time. So do take good care of yourself and keep yourself busy with all the things you like to do. And I'll be back again very soon. Okay then, bye.